creating a massive, expanded outline based on our discussion about language learning, encompassing similarities and differences among languages, strategies for learning at different levels, and methods for accelerated memorization, would look something like this. Outline for a comprehensive language learning guide. Introduction to language learning. Importance of learning new languages. Overview of strategies for learning languages. 2 similarities and differences among selected languages. Similarities ***. Romance languages, Spanish, French, Italian, share grammatical structures and vocabulary. English and German share Germanic roots. Vocabulary borrowing among languages. Common sentence structures, SVO. Pronouns and verb conjugations. Differences ***. Writing systems, logographic for Chinese and Japanese, Cyrillic for Russian, Latin alphabet for others. Tonal nature of Chinese. Use of grammatical cases in Russian and German. Verb conjugation complexity varies. Gendered nouns and articles. 3 comprehensive language learning plan. When to learn languages. Sequence and timing for learning languages. Prioritizing languages based on personal goals or ease of learning. How to learn languages. Immersive learning through media and conversation. Structured courses via online platforms or language schools. Regular, consistent practice. See where to learn languages. Online resources and platforms. Language schools and community colleges. Language exchange programs and meetups. What to use for learning languages. Textbooks and workbooks for grammar and vocabulary. Language learning apps for interactive learning. Native media for immersive experiences. Strategies for learning multiple languages. Focusing on one language at a time. Leveraging language family similarities. Staggered learning approach. Balancing multiple languages. Scheduling language practice. Setting clear goals for each language. 4 foundations and progression in language learning. Learning the foundations. Phonetics and pronunciation. Basic vocabulary and phrases. Grammar basics. Beginner to advanced learning techniques. Visual learning for vocabulary. Spaced repetition systems, SRS. Language immersion and practice with native speakers. Mnemonics and shadowing for accelerated learning. See levels of language learning. Beginner level ***. Building vocabulary, basic grammar, simple conversations. Intermediate level ***. Expanding vocabulary, complex grammatical structures, detailed conversations. Advanced level ***. Refining vocabulary, idiomatic expressions, fluency in complex conversations. Accelerated and super learning techniques. Mnemonics for memory enhancement. Active listening and shadowing for pronunciation and fluency. Language batching for thematic vocabulary learning. 6. Learning the first 1,000 words. Utilizing frequency lists and visual associations. 7. Advanced grammar and application. Constructing sentences and writing exercises. Advanced conversational practice for real-world fluency. 8. Outcomes and application. Cultural competence and understanding. Professional fluency and academic engagement. Literary appreciation and access to original texts. This outline serves as a comprehensive guide for learning languages, from the initial stages of understanding the similarities and differences among them, 2 strategies for learning at various levels, and techniques for accelerated and effective memorization and application. To fully elaborate on the introduction to language learning with the depth and detail you're requesting would far exceed the capabilities of a single response here, but I can start by expanding on the introduction and providing a detailed framework for how to approach such a comprehensive exploration of language learning. Introduction to language learning. Importance of learning new languages. Cognitive benefits. Learning a new language improves cognitive processes, including problem-solving skills, multitasking abilities, and memory. Studies suggest that bilingualism can delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. Cultural appreciation. Learning a language opens up the rich tapestry of its associated cultures, allowing for a deeper appreciation of their traditions, literature, humor, and history. Career opportunities. In an increasingly globalized world, multilingualism is a prized skill set, offering competitive advantages in the job market, particularly in international relations, business, and tourism. Personal growth. The process of learning a new language challenges individuals, fostering personal development, resilience, and an expanded worldview. Social connections. Language skills enable direct communication with more people, facilitating friendships, travel experiences, and deeper connections across cultures. Educational advancement. Knowledge of additional languages can enhance academic research capabilities and access to resources not available in one's native language. Enhanced communication skills. Learning a new language can improve understanding and effectiveness in one's primary language, including vocabulary, grammar, and comprehension. Overview of strategies for learning languages. Immersive learning. Immersion involves surrounding oneself with the target language through travel, living in a language-speaking area, or creating a language immersion environment at home with media and conversation. Formal education. Enrolling in courses at universities, community colleges, or language schools offers structured learning environments with professional guidance. Online platforms and apps. Digital tools like Duolingo, Babbel, Rosetta Stone, and Anki leverage interactive methods and spaced repetition for vocabulary and grammar. Language exchange. Partnering with native speakers for mutual language practice, either in person or via platforms like Tandem or HelloTalk, provides real-life conversational experience. Self-study. Utilizing textbooks, workbooks, flashcards, and listening to podcasts or reading in the target language for self-directed learning. Media consumption. Engaging with movies, music, video games, and literature in the target language exposes learners to natural language use and cultural contexts. Practice and consistency. Regular, dedicated practice, including speaking, writing, reading, and listening, is crucial for progression. Setting daily or weekly goals can aid in maintaining consistency. Defining these key terms and strategies offers a foundational understanding for anyone embarking on the journey of language learning. Each strategy can be tailored to individual learning styles, goals, and preferences, underscoring the multifaceted approach necessary for mastering a new language. Given the depth and complexity of the task to detail every aspect of language similarities and differences, including exhaustive definitions and explanations for each concept, it's important to note that providing an extensive exploration for each point in a single response is challenging. However, I will elaborate on the specified topics to offer a comprehensive overview suitable for educational purposes. 2 similarities and differences among selected languages. Similarities. Romance languages, Spanish, French, Italian. Grammatical structures. These languages utilize a similar grammatical framework that includes the use of gendered nouns, a common set of verb conjugations, and the use of articles. Vocabulary, stemming from Latin, they share a considerable amount of vocabulary. Words related to education, law, religion, and government often have recognizable cognates across these languages. Key term definitions. Cognates, words in two languages that share a similar meaning, spelling, and pronunciation. Conjugation, the variation of the form of a verb in accordance with mood, tense, person, and number. Gendered nouns, nouns that have a specific gender, masculine or feminine, and require articles and adjectives to match in gender. Articles, words used to modify nouns, typically indicating specificity, definite articles, or generality, indefinite articles. Latin, an ancient Italic language of the Roman Empire, from which the Romance languages derive. Verb mood, a feature that expresses the speaker's attitude toward the action of the verb. Syntax, the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. English and German. Germanic roots, both languages are part of the Germanic family, sharing syntax, some vocabulary, and grammatical features from their common ancestor. Key term definitions. Syntax, the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences. Phonology, the study of the sound system of a language. Morphology, the study of the forms of words, including affixation and stem formation. Compound words, words that are formed by combining two or more independent words. Strong verbs, verbs that form their past tenses by changing the vowel of the stem, not by adding ed. Anglo-Saxon, the Old English language derived from various Germanic tribes. Linguistic borrowing, the adoption of words or phrases from one language into another. Vocabulary borrowing. Across languages, languages often adopt words from one another, enriching their lexicons and facilitating cross-cultural communication. Key term definitions. Loanwords, words adopted from one language and incorporated into another without translation. Anglicism, a word or phrase borrowed from English into another language. Gallicism, a word or phrase borrowed from French into another language. Linguistic adaptation, the process by which a loanword is modified to fit the phonological and grammatical norms of the borrowing language. Code switching, the practice of alternating between two or more languages or varieties of language in conversation. Transliteration, the process of converting a text from one writing system into another. Semantic shift, the evolution of word usage, usually to the point that the modern meaning is radically different from the original usage. Common sentence structures, SVO. Subject-verb-object order, a sentence structure where the subject comes first, followed by the verb, and then the object. Key term definitions. Subject, the part of a sentence or clause that indicates what it is about or who performs the action. Verb, the part of speech that expresses action, occurrence, or a state of being. Object, the entity that is acted upon by the subject. Pronouns and verb conjugations. Usage across languages. Pronouns and their corresponding verb conjugations vary across languages, reflecting differences in person, number, gender, and formality. Key term definitions. Personal pronouns, pronouns that are used to represent specific people or things. Inflection, a change in the form of a word, usually the ending, to express a grammatical function or attribute such as tense, mood, person, number, case, and gender. Reflexive pronouns, pronouns used when the object of a sentence is the same as the subject. Subject pronouns, pronouns that act as the subject of a verb. Object pronouns, pronouns that act as the object of. Creating a detailed exposition on a comprehensive language learning plan with the depth you're looking for involves an extensive exploration of methods, tools, and strategies tailored for language acquisition. While providing a fully exhaustive analysis in one response is impractical, I'll offer a structured outline with defined key terms and concepts to form a solid foundation for understanding and implementing a language learning plan. 3. Comprehensive language learning plan. A. When to learn languages. Sequence and timing for learning languages. The order in which you learn languages and the allocation of time dedicated to each, considering cognitive load and linguistic similarities. Prioritizing languages based on personal goals or ease of learning, choosing which languages to learn first based on individual objectives, career, travel, heritage, or based on perceived or actual difficulty levels. Key terms. Cognitive load, the total amount of mental effort being used in the working memory. Linguistic similarity, the degree to which languages share common features in vocabulary, grammar, and syntax. Sequential learning, the process of learning one subject or skill at a time. Polyglot, someone who can speak several languages. Language proficiency, the ability of an individual to speak or perform in an acquired language. Strategic learning, planning and executing learning strategies that are aimed at achieving specific goals. Language acquisition, the process by which humans acquire the capacity to perceive, produce, and use words to understand and communicate. B. How to learn languages. Immersive learning through media and conversation, engaging with the target language through various forms of media and conversational practice to simulate natural language acquisition environments. Structured courses via online platforms or language schools, formal education methods providing a curriculum and instructor-led guidance. Regular, consistent practice, the necessity of habitual study and use of the language to reinforce learning and improve fluency. Key terms. Language immersion, a technique for learning a foreign language by being exposed only to the target language environment. Curriculum, a structured set of learning objectives and materials used in teaching. Fluency, the ability to speak or write a language easily and accurately. Synchronous learning, learning that takes place in real time, often with live instruction. Asynchronous learning, learning that does not occur in the same place or at the same time. Language competency, the ability to use the language correctly and confidently. Reinforcement, in psychology, the process of encouraging or establishing a belief or pattern of behavior. See where to learn languages. Online resources and platforms, digital tools and websites offering language learning materials and interactive experiences. Language schools and community colleges, physical institutions providing structured language education programs. Language exchange programs and meetups, social gatherings and partnerships for practicing language skills with native speakers or fellow learners. Key terms. E-learning, learning conducted via electronic media, typically on the Internet. Blended learning, a style of education in which students learn via electronic and online media as well as traditional face-to-face teaching. Community engagement, active participation in community-based learning experiences. Peer learning, learning with and from others, often in a non-hierarchical setup. 5. Native speaker, a person who has spoken the language in question from earliest childhood. 6. Language partnership, a mutual exchange where two people teach each other their native languages. 7. Meetup, an informal gathering or meeting with a focus on shared interests, including language learning. D. What to use for learning languages. Textbooks and workbooks for grammar and vocabulary, traditional educational resources that provide structured lessons on language rules and lexicon. Language learning apps for interactive learning, software applications designed for language study, offering interactive exercises and tracking progress. Native media for immersive experiences, utilizing television shows, movies, music, and literature in the target language to enhance understanding and fluency. Key terms. Lexicon, the vocabulary of a person, language, or branch of knowledge. Syntax, the arrangement of words and phrases to create well-formed sentences in a language. Interactivity, the degree to which users can participate in modifying the form or content of a mediated environment in real time. Multimedia learning, learning from words and pictures, including text, images, video, and audio. Language proficiency levels, standardized levels of language ability, often measured by tests like the SFA. Assimilation, the process by which a person acquires the social and psychological characteristics of a group. Cultural literacy, the ability to understand and participate fluently in a given culture. E. Strategies for learning multiple languages. Focusing on one language at a time, concentrating learning efforts on a single language before starting another to avoid confusion and enhance retention. Leveraging language family similarities, utilizing the structural and lexical similarities among languages within the same family to streamline learning. Staggered learning approach, sequentially adding new languages to the learning queue as proficiency in previously learned languages solidifies. Key terms. Language family, a group of languages related through descent from a common ancestral language. Retention, the ability to retain information over time. Cross-linguistic influence, the effect of one language on the learning of another, often observed in multilingual speakers. Sequential bilingualism, learning a second language after achieving proficiency in the first. Language transfer, the application of linguistic features from one language to another during learning. Multilingualism, the ability to use more than one language, either by an individual speaker or by a community of speakers. Cognitive strategies, techniques that involve conscious thought to solve problems or learn new information. F. Balancing multiple languages. Scheduling language practice, organizing regular, dedicated time slots for practicing each language being learned to ensure consistent exposure and progress. Setting clear goals for each language, defining specific, measurable objectives for language proficiency to maintain focus and motivation. Key terms. Time management, the process of planning and exercising conscious control of time spent on specific activities, especially to increase effectiveness, efficiency, or productivity. SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound objectives that guide goal setting. Motivation, the reason or reasons one has for acting or behaving in a particular way. Exposure, the state of being exposed to contact with something, in this context, a language, to learn it. Proficiency milestones, specific achievements that indicate progress in language learning, such as completing a language course level. Reflective practice, the act of regularly reflecting on one's actions and learning to engage in a process of continuous learning. Feedback loops, the reception and response to feedback aimed at improving a process or activity. In language learning, this could involve adjustments based on correction or assessment. This detailed framework outlines the components necessary for a comprehensive language learning plan, incorporating strategies for when, how, and where to learn, along with the tools and methods to support the journey. By defining key terms and explaining concepts in detail, learners are equipped with a robust guide to navigate the complexities of acquiring new languages. Embarking on the task to fully explicate the four foundations and progression in language learning with the richness and depth of information you've requested is a substantial endeavor. While capturing the entirety of this vast subject area in a single response is impractical, I will attempt to provide a foundational overview that encapsulates key concepts, methodologies, and strategies, alongside definitions for key terms within each section. 4 Foundations and progression in language learning. A. Learning the foundations. Phonetics and pronunciation. Phonetics is the study of the sounds of human speech, focusing on the physical properties of sounds. Pronunciation refers to the way in which a word is spoken, concerning the correct articulation of sounds. Key terms. Vowel, a speech sound produced without any significant constriction of the airflow in the vocal tract. Consonant, a speech sound that is articulated with complete or partial closure of the vocal tract. Intonation, the variation of pitch while speaking, which can be used to indicate questions, statements, and various emotional states. Stress, the emphasis placed on a particular syllable or word in speech. Phoneme, the smallest unit of sound that can distinguish one word from another in a particular language. Diphthong, a sound formed by the combination of 2 vowels in a single syllable, where the sound begins as one vowel and moves towards another. IPA, International Phonetic Alphabet, a system of phonetic notation based on Latin alphabet, designed to represent all the sounds of oral languages. Basic vocabulary and phrases. Building a foundational lexicon in a new language is critical for basic communication and comprehension. Key terms. Lexicon, the vocabulary of a person, language, or branch of knowledge. Phrase, a small group of words standing together as a conceptual unit, typically forming a component of a clause. Cognates, words in different languages that have a similar form and meaning due to a shared etymology. False friends, words in 2 languages that look or sound similar but differ significantly in meaning. Polysemy, the coexistence of many possible meanings for a word or phrase. Idiom, a phrase or expression whose meaning cannot be understood from the ordinary meanings of the words it is made of. Collocation, a sequence of words or terms that co-occur more often than would be expected by chance. Grammar basics. The system and structure of a language, including syntax, sentence structure, and morphology, form and structure of words. Key terms. Syntax, the set of rules, principles, and processes that govern the structure of sentences in a given language. Morphology, the study of the form of words, including affixation, root words, and the creation of compound words. Tense, the form of a verb that indicates the time at which an action occurs. Aspect, the component of a verb that expresses the flow of time relative to the action. Conjugation, the variation of the form of a verb in accordance with person, tense, mood, and aspect. Declension, the inflection of nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and articles to indicate number, case, and gender. Preposition, a word governing, and usually preceding, a noun or pronoun and expressing a relation to another word or element in the clause. B. Beginner to advanced learning techniques. Visual learning for vocabulary. Leveraging images, videos, and visual aids to associate words with visual concepts, enhancing retention and recall. Key terms. Visual association, the process of linking a new word or concept with a visual image to aid memory. Mind map, a diagram used to visually organize information, often around a single concept. Flashcards, cards bearing information, such as words or numbers, on either or both sides, used in classroom drills or in private study. Infographics, visual representations of information, data, or knowledge intended to present information quickly and clearly. Mnemonic devices, techniques a person can use to help them improve their ability to remember something. Iconicity, the quality of visual images to convey meaning directly, without the need for words. Spatial learning, the process of learning through visualizing spatial relationships between objects or spaces. Spaced repetition systems, SRS. A learning technique that incorporates increasing intervals of time between subsequent reviews of previously learned material to exploit the psychological spacing effect. Key terms. Spacing effect, the phenomenon whereby learning is greater when studying is spread out over time, as opposed to studying the same amount of content in a single session. Algorithm, a process or set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations, especially by a computer. Retention rate, the proportion of material retained or remembered. Review sessions, dedicated times to go over previously learned material. Active recall, a principle of efficient learning which posits that actively stimulating memory during the learning process significantly improves recall. Forgetting curve, a hypothesized graph that describes the rate at which something is forgotten after it is initially learned. Cognitive load, the total amount of mental effort being used in the working memory. Language immersion and practice with native speakers. The practice of being involved in a real-life language environment where only the target language is used, enhancing natural language acquisition. Key terms. Full immersion, a situation where a learner is completely surrounded by the target language environment. Language acquisition, the process by which humans acquire the capacity to perceive and comprehend language, as well as to produce and use words and sentences to communicate. Language exposure, the amount of time spent in contact with the target language. Conversational practice, engaging in spoken dialogue to improve language skills. Language exchange, a mutual exchange where two people teach each other their native languages. Cultural immersion, the process of becoming familiar with and understanding a foreign culture through direct experience. Linguistic competence, the system of linguistic knowledge possessed by native speakers of a language. Mnemonics and shadowing for accelerated learning. Utilizing mnemonic devices for memorization and shadowing techniques for speaking practice to accelerate language proficiency. Key terms. Mnemonics, memory aids, especially those techniques that use vivid imagery and organizational devices. Shadowing, a language learning technique that involves repeating language immediately after it is heard. Auditory learning, learning style in which a person learns through listening. Pronunciation mimicking, the act of imitating the pronunciation of words in the target language to improve one's own pronunciation. Phonetic training, exercises aimed at improving the learner's ability to recognize and produce the sounds of a language. Echoic memory, a component of sensory memory that is specific to retaining auditory information. Recitation, the action of repeating something aloud from memory. See levels of language learning. Beginner level. Focuses on acquiring basic vocabulary, understanding simple grammatical structures, and engaging in rudimentary conversation. Intermediate level. Expands vocabulary, delves into more complex grammatical rules, and enables more detailed conversations on a wider range of topics. Advanced level. Polishes vocabulary to include nuanced and idiomatic expressions, refines grammatical proficiency, and achieves fluency in complex conversational and written contexts. By progressing through these levels with the outlined strategies and leveraging the defined key terms, learners can systematically advance their language proficiency. This structured approach provides a roadmap from foundational knowledge to advanced linguistic and cultural competence. Diving into the complexities of accelerated and super learning techniques for language acquisition requires a detailed exploration of methodologies designed to enhance memorization, pronunciation, fluency, and thematic vocabulary learning. Here, we'll dissect each technique, its application in language learning, and key terms associated with these strategies. The accelerated and super learning techniques. 1. Mnemonics for memory enhancement. Mnemonics are memory aids that facilitate the retention of information by transforming data into a format that the human mind can retain better than its original form. Key terms. Association, linking a piece of information to a memorable image, word, or concept. Visualization, creating a mental image to remember a word or concept. Acronym, a word created from the initial letters of a phrase, making it easier to remember. Chunking, breaking down information into smaller, more manageable parts for easier recall. Loci method, associating information with specific locations in a familiar place in one's mind. Rhyme, using a poem or a song to remember information due to the rhythmic and melodic patterns. Keyword method, identifying a similar sounding word or concept in your native language to the target language word and creating a visual or contextual link between them. 2. Active listening and shadowing for pronunciation and fluency. Active listening and shadowing are techniques aimed at improving language comprehension and pronunciation through careful listening and repetition. Key terms. Active listening, fully concentrating on what is being said rather than passively hearing the message of the speaker. Shadowing, repeating language immediately after it is heard, focusing on mimicking pronunciation and intonation. Intonation pattern, the variation in spoken pitch that signals the difference in meaning or conveys the speaker's attitude. Prosody, the patterns of rhythm and sound used in poetry and language, including stress, intonation, and timing. Auditory discrimination, the ability to hear differences in sounds, crucial for learning pronunciation. Parroting, a form of shadowing that involves immediate repetition, focusing solely on mimicry without understanding. Echoic memory, the sensory memory register specific to auditory information, allowing brief retention of sounds. 3. Language batching for thematic vocabulary learning. Language batching involves organizing vocabulary learning into thematic or topical groups to enhance contextual learning and memory. Key terms. Thematic vocabulary, a method of vocabulary acquisition that focuses on learning words grouped by theme or topic, such as food, travel, or business. Contextual learning, the process of learning new information or skills by relating them to something known or concrete. Cognitive organization, the mental process of organizing information in a systematic way to improve recall. Schema, a pattern of thought or behavior that organizes categories of information and the relationships among them. Spaced learning, a learning method in which content is repeated with intervals of time between repetitions. Interleaving, the practice of alternating between different topics or subjects in order to enhance learning. Recall efficiency, the effectiveness and speed with which a person can access memories or information. Each of these accelerated and super learning techniques leverages cognitive and perceptual mechanisms to fast-track language acquisition, making them particularly effective for students aiming to rapidly improve their language skills. By understanding and applying these strategies, learners can significantly enhance their ability to memorize, pronounce, and fluently use new languages, underpinned by a deeper comprehension of the underlying linguistic structures. Understanding and acquiring the first 1,000 words in a new language is a pivotal step towards achieving functional proficiency and enhancing communication abilities. This part focuses on strategies such as utilizing frequency lists and visual associations to master these foundational vocabulary items effectively. Here, we'll dive deep into the methodologies, supported by key terms and definitions, to ensure a comprehensive grasp of these techniques. 6. Learning the first 1,000 words. Utilizing frequency lists. Frequency lists are compilations of the most commonly used words in a language, ranked according to their occurrence in written and spoken language. These lists serve as a strategic starting point for vocabulary acquisition. Key terms. Corpus linguistics, the study of language as expressed in corpora, bodies of text, or databases of real-world text usage to analyze linguistic structures, frequency, etc. Zipf's law, a principle stating that in any given corpus, the frequency of any word is inversely proportional to its rank in the frequency table. Lemma, the base form of a word from which all its inflections or derived forms are derived. High-frequency words, words that appear most frequently in spoken and written language. Stop words, commonly used words, such as the, and, is, that are often filtered out in processing language data because they contain little meaningful information. Vocabulary acquisition, the process of learning new words and their meanings. Cognitive load theory, a theory that suggests that learning is affected by the amount of working memory resources available, emphasizing the importance of managing the complexity and quantity of information being processed. Visual associations. Visual associations involve linking new vocabulary words with images, scenes, or concepts to enhance memory and recall. This method leverages the brain's innate ability to remember vivid, visual information more effectively than abstract data. Key terms. Mnemonic imagery, the use of vivid mental images to make information more memorable. Conceptual imagery, creating mental images that encapsulate the essence or meaning of a new word. Memory palace, a mnemonic device that leverages spatial memory to organize and recall information by associating it with specific locations within an imaginary or real place. Visual encoding, the process of converting new information into mental pictures. Associative learning, learning that involves connecting a new concept with an existing one. Dual coding theory, a theory of cognition proposing that visual and verbal information act together to encode information into memory. Retention strategies, techniques employed to enhance the ability to retain and recall information over time. By prioritizing high-frequency words from frequency lists, learners can ensure they are focusing on the most useful and commonly encountered vocabulary, making their learning efforts more immediately applicable and rewarding. Coupling this approach with visual associations enriches the learning experience, enabling the learner to create more durable and accessible memory traces for new vocabulary. This detailed exploration of strategies for learning the first 1,000 words in a new language underscores the importance of strategic, focused learning. It highlights how understanding and applying cognitive principles and memory-enhancing techniques can significantly accelerate language acquisition and deepen linguistic comprehension. Embarking on advanced grammar and application involves a multifaceted approach to deepening language skills, emphasizing the ability to construct complex sentences, engage in sophisticated writing exercises, and partake in advanced conversational practice. This phase is crucial for achieving real-world fluency, where learners can effectively communicate in a wide range of situations, express nuanced ideas, and understand the subtleties of the language. Let's delve into each component, supported by key terms and detailed explanations, to ensure comprehensive learning. 7. Advanced grammar and application. Constructing sentences and writing exercises. Mastering advanced grammar involves understanding complex sentence structures, nuanced grammatical rules, and applying these concepts in writing to convey precise meaning. Key terms. Syntax complexity refers to the variety and sophistication of sentence structures used, including the use of subordinate clauses and varied sentence types. Subordinate clause, a clause that provides an additional information to a main clause and cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. Modality, the grammatical expressions of attitudes toward the reality or truth of a proposition, including necessity, possibility, permission, and obligation. Voice, active and passive, the distinction between when the subject of the sentence is performing the action, active voice, or receiving the action, passive voice. Aspect, a grammatical category that expresses how an action, event, or state, denoted by a verb, extends over time. Discourse analysis, the study of how sentences in spoken and written language form larger meaningful units such as paragraphs, conversations, and articles. Cohesion and coherence, the elements that help to make a text or spoken language unified and logically consistent. Advanced conversational practice for real-world fluency. Achieving fluency requires the ability to engage in spontaneous, dynamic conversations on a wide range of topics, accurately using complex grammatical structures and vocabulary. Key terms. Pragmatics, the branch of linguistics dealing with language in use and the contexts in which it is used, including the social implications and communicative functions of language. Idiomatic expressions, phrases whose meanings cannot be inferred from the meanings of the words that make them up. Colloquial language, informal language or slang that is often used in everyday conversation but not in formal speech or writing. Register, the level of formality or informality in language, often determined by the context in which it is spoken or written. Prosody, the patterns of stress and intonation in a language, which can alter meaning and convey emotion. Code switching, the practice of alternating between two or more languages or dialects in conversation. Sociolinguistics, the study of how language varies and changes in social groups, and how language functions in social context. To effectively teach and learn advanced grammar and its application. Practice construction of complex sentences. Engage in writing exercises that challenge the learner to use varied and complex sentence structures, incorporating subordinate clauses, different voices, and aspects. Enhance writing through feedback. Submit writing exercises for feedback to identify areas of improvement and refine understanding of advanced grammatical concepts. Engage in real-world conversations. Participate in discussion groups, language exchanges, or conversation classes that encourage the use of advanced vocabulary and structures. Analyze authentic texts. Study texts from literature, journalism, or academic papers to observe advanced grammar in use and understand its effects on style and clarity. Simulate real-life scenarios. Practice speaking in situations that may be encountered in real life, such as debates, presentations, and negotiations, to apply grammar dynamically. Advanced grammar and application focus on bridging the gap between theoretical knowledge and practical use, enabling learners to communicate with sophistication and precision. Through diligent practice, feedback, and exposure to varied language contexts, learners can achieve a high level of fluency and confidence in their language abilities. Achieving proficiency in a language extends beyond mastering vocabulary and grammar. It encompasses understanding cultural nuances, achieving fluency for professional and academic purposes, and appreciating literary works in their original form. This holistic approach enriches the language learning journey, making it a deeply rewarding experience. Here, we explore the outcomes and application of language learning in detail, focusing on cultural competence, professional fluency, academic engagement, and literary appreciation. 8 Outcomes and application. Cultural competence and understanding. Cultural competence involves the ability to interact effectively and respectfully with people of different cultures, understanding cultural practices, beliefs, and societal norms that influence communication. Key terms. Cultural norms, established standards of behavior maintained by a society. Nonverbal communication, the process of conveying a message without the use of words, which can vary significantly across cultures. Social etiquette, the customary code of polite behavior in society or among members of a particular profession or group. Cultural sensitivity, being aware that cultural differences and similarities exist and have an effect on values, learning, and behavior. Intercultural communication, the verbal and nonverbal interaction between people from different cultural backgrounds. Cultural immersion, the process by which individuals familiarize themselves with the cultural nuances, language, and practices of a different culture by placing themselves in that cultural context. Ethnography, the scientific description of the customs of individual peoples and cultures. Professional fluency and academic engagement. Achieving a level of language proficiency that allows for effective communication in professional settings and academic environments is crucial for career advancement and scholarly pursuits. Key terms. Technical vocabulary, specialized terms that are used in specific fields of study or professions. Academic writing, a formal style of writing used in universities and scholarly publications. Language for specific purposes, LSP language education tailored to meet the needs of learners in specific professional fields or academic disciplines. Bilingualism in the workplace, the ability to use 2 languages proficiently in a professional setting. Conference participation, engaging in academic or professional conferences, which often requires advanced language skills for presentations and networking. Research methodology, the techniques and principles used to conduct research, which may require understanding of advanced language and technical terminology. Critical thinking, the objective analysis and evaluation of an issue in order to form a judgment, often facilitated by advanced language skills. Literary appreciation and access to original texts. Understanding and enjoying literature in its original language offers unparalleled insight into the culture, history, and nuances of expression that translations may not fully capture. Key terms. Literary devices, techniques used by writers to convey their message more powerfully or to enhance their storytelling. Narrative technique, the style of telling the story, which can include perspective, voice, and pacing. Poetic form, the structure of a poem, including elements like rhyme scheme, meter, and stanza organization. Thematic analysis, examining the themes and motifs in literary works to uncover deeper meanings. Historical context, the moods, attitudes, and conditions that existed in a certain time, which is often reflected in literature. Figurative language, language that uses words or expressions with a meaning that is different from the literal interpretation. Critical interpretation, the process of examining a text to understand its meanings and implications, often requiring a deep understanding of the language and cultural context. Language learning, when pursued with depth and dedication, opens up a world of opportunities for cultural exchange, professional growth, academic achievement, and literary enrichment. Through the development of cultural competence, professional fluency, and the ability to engage with academic materials and literature in their original form, learners can fully experience the richness and diversity of the world's languages and cultures. This comprehensive approach not only enhances communicative abilities but also fosters a greater appreciation for the complexities and beauty of human expression across cultures.